Hello, my friends. D.L. Anderson here. Welcome back to Transformation by Truth podcast as we share the truth concerning these last days and what you must do to save yourself from the violent times that are just ahead. Today's podcast is a word of truth accounting of the end times. The end is coming. The end is near. Today's podcast is entitled End Times 424, an intro to honesty, part 2, how you can become an honest woman or man. The podcast objectives are reveal why many who have been called will not be chosen, analyze the conflict between honesty and your ego, and analyze the infinite value of an honest man. This lesson contains timelines and other visuals. Therefore, if you are listening to the podcast, I advise you to watch the video version on our website or YouTube, or request a PDF of the lesson so you can add the visual effect. The 3 degrees of honesty. Shalom, my beloved brothers and sisters, and welcome to day 241 of our exposition of lawlessness. In the most recent podcast, we began our analysis of honesty, i.e., the fundamental degree of virtue. We concluded that podcast by revealing how honesty is the foundation of all spiritual growth. As you would expect, dishonesty has the opposite testimony. Vis-a-vis, dishonesty not only prevents spiritual growth, but it is also the primary architect of our personal destruction. Ergo, if you operate in dishonesty, you are not only deceiving yourself, my dear friend, you are destroying yourself. Although dishonesty is not the most overpowering degree of lawlessness on an independent scale, it bears down mercilessly on all who prescribe to its ways. This brings us to an early interest point on this topic, which I encourage you to bookmark and remember. More than any other spiritual deficit, dishonesty will prevent the greatest number of men and women in this nation from obtaining the seal of Elohim. Alas, it is the number one reason why the majority of those who have been called will never be chosen. Now, the significance of this matter stems from the reality that most men and women are to some degree dishonest. Like many of you, I can count the number of truly honest people I know on one hand. Here is why. When most people think of honesty, they think of the proverbial truth, i.e., a limited account of the facts in question. Not only this, but the fraction of truth which most of us choose to tell is often biased, and it represents only one side of the truth. That is, the side which captures us in the most favorable light. Alas, this is a truth which most men and women live and swear by. It is a fractional, prejudicial statement, void of any true appreciation or understanding of the situation at hand and what is really at stake. Now, very needless to say, this disparaged version of the truth is not associated with the spiritual standard of honesty. Quite the contrary, for the spiritual standard of honesty has three parts: the truth, i.e., unbiased, the whole truth, i.e., unabridged, and nothing but the truth, i.e., uncorrupted. Now, I believe the unbiased truth speaks for itself. Therefore, we should progress this discussion by analyzing the whole truth. The great evil in many words. Now, the whole truth is exactly what it is. Vis-a-vis, it is the unabridged truth, the unequivocal inclusion of every fact and detailed related to the event in question. And yet, as simple as this matter is, here lies a problem. To wit, most of us fail to tell the whole truth because this version of truth exposes us for who we really are, which really shouldn't be an issue unless you are trying to hide something. My dear friends, we are all going to make mistakes at some point in our journey. That's not in question. What is in question is, are we man enough to own up to our mistakes? And are we willing to be held accountable for our actions? Now, the short answer is we should be. But alas, most men and women are cowards who will go to great lengths to conceal the truth of who they really are. All the while, they fail to consider how this act of cowardice is stunting their spiritual growth. For look, listen, it has been written, he who covers his sins shall not prosper. Look again, and you will see Yahushua Messiah is declaring, it takes the whole truth to set us free. Ergo, you are destroying yourself and keeping yourself in bondage when you work to hide the truth. And this too, you should consider. When you lie, you are not lying to men. Quite the contrary, you are lying to the set apart spirit of Elohim. Be advised. Now, this brings us to the third and final part of the spiritual equation of honesty. Enter nothing but the truth. Let's talk about it, shall we? Ill-advisedly, many will never tell this version of the truth for the same reason they don't tell the whole truth. It is because they don't want to own up to their actions, because self has opened the door for them to be controlled by their ego. Here is what they fail to realize. Ego is the pinnacle of lawlessness, and thus, every time you work to protect your ego in the spirit of dishonesty, you are endorsing lawlessness and condemning holiness. My dear friends, you must believe me. This is not something you want to do. Trust me, it is far better to sacrifice your ego and righteously suffer the consequences of your own wrongdoing than to endorse lawlessness. Now, I would also have you know a little something about your ego. Vis-a-vis, your ego is a habitual liar. Ergo, there is a liar within all of us, and he or she will not be fully eliminated until we come to the end of our journey. Therefore, the temptation to cover your tracks will be ever present as long as you are on this quest. This is precisely why we must unlock the power of honesty early in our quest. And we must lean into this power often. Trust me, you will never have any success at managing and eventually defeating your ego if you are not intentional about being honest in all things. Now, this matter lends itself to the primary reason why most men and women fail the test of honesty. I ask you to consider it carefully and honestly, for we have all taken these actions before. And if we're not careful, we will take these actions again. The most popular exit route on the path of dishonesty is the addition of spin to a situation. To wit, the individual inserts their own opinion into the equation, which is inherently prejudiced and meant to construct a deceitful narrative. This is precisely why the scriptures teach us to let our communications be limited to the proverbial yes and no ends of the verbiage spectrum. For look, listen, it has been written, there comes great evil in the multitude of words. Now, Matthew 5:37 is revealing, but let your word yes be yes, and your no be no. And what goes beyond these is from the wicked one. Deuteronomy 4:2 is revealing, do not add to the word which I command you, and do not take away from it, so as to guard the commands of Yahuwah, your Elohim, which I am commanding you. Who can find an honest man? Now, the importance of this command is sure, vis-a-vis, when you add to or subtract from the truth, you are not only converting the truth into a lie. My dear friends, you are setting the stage for the distortion of judgment. We know this because it is impossible to execute a righteous judgment if your judgment is not according to the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. If you don't believe me, I'd ask you to consider our court system and ask yourself the following question. Why is each defendant asked to swear on the good book by these words? And I quote, do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? As I said before, it is because a righteous judgment cannot be rendered upon any falsification of truth. But alas, many within our nation are ignorant to this reality, and thus the serious natures of truth and justice are constantly violated. And this, my friends, is why you will find partial judgments being cast carelessly in some very critical cases of the spiritual variety. Yet, here is the thing you should consider. Even though such sinister crookedness can be stomached by men and women who have their price, the intentional perversion of judgment is loathed by Elohim. Deuteronomy 16:19 is revealing, do not distort judgment, do not show partiality, nor take a bribe, for a bribe blinds the eyes of the wise and twists the words of the righteous. This is an important command to be sure, for Yahuwah is on record that honesty is the fundamental requirement for spiritual leadership. And thus, as it pertains to leadership, what we need now more than ever are men of honest report. My dear friends, you must believe me. More than anything, we need men who are trustworthy, men who will swear to their own hurt and change not, and men who would rather die than forsake the judgment of Elohim, which is sure, and yet who can find an honest man? Psalm 37, 27 to 28 is revealing. Turn away from evil and do good and dwell forever. For Yahuwah loves right ruling and does not forsake his lovingly committed ones. They shall be guarded forever, but the seed of the wrongdoers is cut off. Now, therefore, seeing Yahuwah's great love for justice, what manner of men ought we to be? Truly, we should be honest men and women, lest we find ourselves coming to immediate ruin after achieving, with no small effort, our mastery of obedience and faith. At long last, when the Father has a mission to assign to one of his servants, and he asks amongst his messengers, who can find an honest man or woman to go for us? You will stand up with your hand raised high, saying, here am I, send me. Now, here is the final word. The truth remains forever intact, and only a fool would add or subtract. Brothers and sisters, hear me carefully as I say, when you wrestle with the truth in the spirit of dishonesty, you do so to your death. For have you not known? Have you not heard? Yahushua Messiah is the truth. And when he comes the second time around, he's not coming to give his life. Quite the contrary. He's coming to take life. My dear friends, he is coming to rule the earth with a rod of iron. And that's only after he orchestrates the deaths of more than 7 billion men, women, and children who were not sealed by the spirit of Elohim. Heretofore, I recommend, don't sell your soul to dishonesty. Rather, resist him again and again, and do everything within your power to be transformed into an honest man. Now, here is today's assignment. Meditate on the word you have heard today, and as always, ask the Father to reveal the truth to you. For the children of Elohim live by conviction, and if he has not convicted you, or if you had not heard him concerning these matters, you should pray until you do. Today, I want you to meditate on the word I have shared. Specifically, I want you to ask yourself if you are consistently telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in every situation. If you are, that's great. Stay on the path you're on and keep it straight. If you're not, I advise you to repent and to be intentional going forward about resisting the temptation to leave even a fraction of the truth out of the equation. Remember, you'll never experience spiritual growth if you are operating outside of your reality. So embrace your reality and embrace the fact that honesty is just one of many transformations you must endure if you are to obtain the seal of Elohim. Now, here is what's next. We completed today's podcast, End Times 424, an intro to honesty, part 2. And the next podcast is entitled End Times 425, Your Victory Over Dishonesty. I will post this podcast on Friday, February 28th, 2025. Until then, my friends, continue to be led by the Spirit of Elohim. Continue to watch, continue to pray, continue in fasting, and most of all, continue to be focused, for the end is coming. The end is near.